Hi Dragons, it's Mrs. McHenrick and I will be your art teacher today. I am coming to you live from my art room in my house. So I wanted to do our drawing prompt today, which will not be a drawing again. But before I do, I wanted to give a special shout out to the first of the second grade classes, Miss Conti's class. I hope that you're doing well. I miss you. And I hope that you are making art because I know you are a creative bunch. All right, so before I jump into llama business, I have some mail business to attend to. I had some friends send in their cardboard sculptures that they created that were inspired by Tony Rosenthal, so I want to share them with you now. Here's the mailbag. Okay, everybody, so today's project is to draw a llama, which is Mr. McHenrick's favorite animal. However, we're not drawing this week, so we are going to make our own clay. I'm going to take you down into my kitchen here in just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to teach you how to make a very simple salt dough recipe that does not require any crazy ingredients or any cooking whatsoever. So we'll do that in a second. I do want to teach you about an artist whose artwork we are going to be emulating today. There is a very famous American sculptor. His name is Jeff Koons. He is still alive and practicing, and he is super famous for making these amazing giant sculptures that look like balloon animals. They are also painted with a metallic and mirror finish to have almost like a mylar balloon look to them. They're not the only things he's done. He's done some incredible sculptures, including a gigantic dog made completely out of flowers, and all sorts of other really cool stuff. So definitely look into Jeff Koons if you want. He's a super fun artist, and he also holds the record for living artists whose artwork sold for the most money at auction. So lots of money, really crazy stuff. Millions, $91 million for a rabbit sculpture, just so you know. Anyway, let's head on down to the kitchen. You haven't been there yet. And I'm going to teach you how to make some salt dough. Here we go. Okay, welcome to my kitchen. So here we are going to be using some ingredients that you can find right around your kitchen to make small batch of air dry clay. Now this is salt dough clay. Some of you have probably made salt dough before, and it has 3 ingredients plus some equipment. You will need a bowl, large bowl, a 1/4 cup of water. There's that. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of flour or a flour alternative. Gluten-free flours would work too. And lastly, a 1/4 cup of salt. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting our water in our bowl. And then we're going to put in our salt. Now I just used room temperature water. Salt dough does have a grainy texture if you're not cooking it. Some doughs and air dry clays that you can make at home do require you to cook, I'm just going to stir the salt up a little bit. The water isn't really warm enough for the salt to dissolve from a solid form to a liquid state. But this is just gonna help a little bit and help the texture eventually be not quite so grainy. All right, so I've got those mixed up pretty well together, and now I'm just gonna start adding my flour in, kind of a little bit at a time. I don't wanna do that. Well, a little bit at a time is a better idea. And you're just stirring it up. I'm just using a spatula here. I have no idea if you can see what I'm doing. Maybe now, maybe less, I don't know. And I still have some of my flour left in here. Scrape it down the sides so I get it all in. I want all of the dry flour to get wet. And then I'll put the rest of the flour in. Stir that up real good. We're going to use this salt dough clay to make our Jeff Koons inspired llama today. You can use salt dough clay for really anything, and it's nice because it does dry hard. We are going to, I'll show you a technique today for how you can make sure that your pieces stay attached. If you don't use all one piece of clay, if you're using lots of little pieces and smushing them together, you have to use some water in between your pieces to create a glue. So I'm wiping off my spatula here, and I'm gonna get my hands in here and just work out the rest of any little clumps of flour, pulling flour from the sides, smushing this between my hands. This recipe comes from Cassie Stevens, another art teacher. She has a book called Clay Lab for Kids, and this recipe is from her book. So check her out. She's the one, last week she did a robot week. This week she's doing pirate week, so you can find her on Facebook or Instagram. So here we go. There it is. Pretty easy, that salt dough. So I'm gonna take it with me now, and I'm gonna use this salt dough to make my clay llama. There it is! Look at that! Oh, it's beautiful. I did it. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is not. I didn't make this with salt dough. I didn't make it at all. Home goods. Here we go. Fooled you. All right, so here I am ready to make my Jeff Koons inspired llama with my salt dough clay. Now, if I don't use all of the salt dough clay today, I can just put it in a plastic bag or wrap it in saran wrap and keep it in the fridge. That will keep it usable and workable. You might have to sprinkle a little bit of water on it to wake it back up after you take it out of the fridge, and definitely let it get back to room temperature so it's not too hard for you. And then you can use it. This will also dry overnight, and after it dries, I can paint it using acrylic paints or maybe even tempera paints. Watercolor paints will probably soak into the clay, and also the water and watercolor paints will mix with the flour, and you will have kind of a flowery, watercolory mess. So best to use craft store paints like acrylics. So this air dry clay, the salt dough clay that we've made, is super soft, which means that it can't really hold its shape the way that the kiln fired clay that we use at school does. So in order to use it, it's hard to use to build sculptures that will stand on their own, because everything is so soft it sort of blobs, okay? So instead we're going to start with a flat surface like a circle, and then we're going to use some clay building techniques to put our llama on the circle, almost like an ornament, for example. So if you are in, I don't know, this year I had first grade, third grade, fourth and fifth, all used, or no, fifth and sixth, all created clay slabs. Now my friends in third grade, we created slabs by pounding our clay down on the tables. Remember, we had the rolling thunder and you were pounding, pounding, pounding. 5th and 6th grade, you used rulers and rolling pins to make sure that your slabs were the correct thickness. What you're doing is you're going to push your clay down. It is a little sticky. You can have flour on your hands. You should also make sure you have either paper or some other flour underneath because this dough is sticky. And then you're rolling it and want it to be about the thickness of a delicious cookie or about the thickness of your finger. Now I am just going to use the handle of a paintbrush actually to carve a little salt dough, I guess maybe a rectangle. That's what I feel like this dough wants to be right now, is a rectangle. So I'm just pressing down like that and pulling the dough away. Let me get this out of here so I have more room for activities. Okay, here we go. Can fix that up a little bit and over here. Okay, feel better about this. I feel good about this. Little llama habitat. Maybe we'll give him somewhere to hang out afterwards. Okay, so this is, like I said before, pretty sticky dough. So I'm actually just gonna pull this up right now because this, when I pressed on it, there we go. All right, pull it up, clean off under here, and then readjust. You could prevent this from happening by using flour on your surface. I left my flour downstairs in the kitchen and I am too lazy to go get it. So instead I've got this wonky. It's okay. All right, here we go. Okay, loosen that up a little bit. Here's our clay rectangle. Okay, now I'm going to create my Jeff Koons inspired llama. I might just use some of these pieces that I just cut off. I might use some of the rest of my clay. So let's start with the body. Jeff Koons' his balloon animal sculptures all are very realistic representations. They look a lot like actual balloon animals, which means that they have long oval shaped pieces. So I'm just going to use a little bit of water on my background. Oops, my background here. Can squish things around. I want it to be a relief sculpture, which means that there's a flat background and that the clay rises up off of the background. All right, here's gonna be my, let's see, what do you want to be? The neck? I feel like I heard somebody say neck. All right, nice long llama neck. A little bit of water. Ooh. Here we go. Wiggle it on, play around with it, get it the way you want it to be. And I think I'm just gonna have a little kind of snout sticking out here. Llama faces are short and squatty. Their neck really takes up a lot of room. There we go, that's pretty llama-like. Llama-y. You see that? Yeah, you can see that, okay. All right, maybe I'll throw in a teeny tiny little ear up here. A little water. Now, the water, you want to be careful not to have too much go on your sculpture here because this dough does have a high water content already, and the more water you put on it, the stickier it's going to become. And now look at what's happening. Oh, that's cool, because this is just what Jeff Koons' sculptures look like. So I'm actually going to just, see these little tidbits that I have here? I'm actually going to just use this for my leg. Doesn't that look like his sculptures anyway? Oh, I can hear Archie crying because it's dinner time. There we go. One balloon llama leg. Isn't llama just a great word? isn't it? And it has 2 L's. It's just so fun. All right, here's another one. I just folded that right over. Snip off that piece. Is that about the same length? It looks like it. Ooh, this llama's really working. He's coming on back. Tried lots of different ways to make the llama today, and I feel like this is the most successful. Okay. There we go. And last but not least, a little llama tail. I'm gonna do the same. I like this strategy, the fold and pinch strategy. I got flour all over my hands, that's okay. This is not nearly as messy as some of the clay projects we've been working on in the art room at school. You guys can all agree. Look at that little llama tail. A little bit big, but that's okay. And yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this guy. I can see that being a little llama balloon animal. Jeff Koons' artwork does have the little balloon pieces on it. So there's like the end of the balloon right there. Use those fine motor skills today, guys. There's one on the tail too. The other end of the balloon. All right. So I have some extra salto here, and I can squish this up real good so it's nice and smooth. This can be put in a plastic bag or wrapped in saran wrap and then put in the refrigerator. It's gonna be good for about 2 weeks. Should you eat your salto? No. Could you if you want to? Yes. Should you? No. It is really salty. It doesn't taste good. I'm sure about half of you are now going to put it in your mouth, but I would suggest that you don't, especially after touching it with your hands like I've been doing. There it is.